We bring this question to the text. In what ways does the cloth serve as empirical evidence for the event of the body being delivered from the mansion of the dead and preserved living, particularly the instantaneous body-cloth interaction without disturbance? The drawer opens with the lead verse from Malachi chapter 1 verse 1. The burden of the Word of YHWH to Israel by Malachi my messenger. This sets the frame. The cloth operates as that burden, bearing the record of the encounter and declaring it as testimony. As the verses unfold, a coherent story of testimony and deliverance comes into view. We hear of the living baby given and in no way killed because she is the mother in 1 Kings chapter 3 verse 27. Life is preserved intact. We hear the question, can he deliver his such from the mansion of the dead, in Psalms chapter 89 verse 48. The cloth records an affirmative answer. The sacred blessing given to those who walk at the feet from 1 Samuel chapter 25 verse 27, the pardon of covenant violation to worship from 1 Samuel chapter 15 verse 25, and the company that blessed YHWH Elohim of their forefathers and worshipped from 1 Chronicles chapter 29 verse 20, show the response of turning back to YHWH. The cloth remains positioned and ritually clean after the plague has departed. Leviticus chapter 13 verse 58 tells us the garment, if the plague is departed, will be ritually washed and will be clean. The cloth retains its integrity once death has left the body. This pattern of preservation without disturbance finds its echo in the waters of Exodus chapter 15 verse 8. With the wind from your nostrils the waters were heaped up, the flow took an upright position, and the sea bottom was frozen. Divine action fixes the elements instantaneously. In the same way, the cloth holds its form as the body departs without expected unwrapping. The threshing floor encounters, such as Ornan threshing wheat and the winnowing shovel gathering wheat while the chaff burns, illustrate separation with the wheat preserved. The event stands as a visible sign and miracle before our eyes. Deuteronomy chapter 6 verse 22 declares YHWH showed signs and miracles upon Egypt and Pharaoh before our eyes. The cloth functions as empirical testimony that can be seen. It is like the spring named Bir Lahai Roi as a memorial in Genesis chapter 16 verse 14, the centurion warned from Elohim by a holy angel in Acts chapter 10 verse 22, and the command to write down all these words for the divisions of the days in Jubilees chapter 1 verse 12. It takes place at the appointed season of priestly consecration, first fruits, and Passover. Numbers chapter 15 verses 2 and 3 speaks of making a consecrated burnt offering by fire to YHWH in your appointed times. Numbers chapter 28 verse 26 adds that in the day of the first fruits you will have a sacred assembly and do no labor. Ezra chapter 6 verse 20 records that the priests and Levites were consecrated and purified together and killed the Passover. The timing aligns with these seasons. The third time I am coming in 2 Corinthians chapter 13 verse 1, and the difficult thing, if you see me when I am taken from you, in 2 Kings chapter 2 verse 10, echo patterns of appearance leaving a positioned witness behind. The kingdom comes not with observation, as recorded in Luke chapter 17 verse 20. It is sudden, and the cloth bears the positioned witness afterward. Covenant faithfulness is confirmed like the great mountains from Psalms chapter 36 verse 6. The glorious name is blessed for the ages from Psalms chapter 72 verse 19, and the identity is ransomed and will not now be ashamed from Isaiah chapter 29 verse 22. Israel rejoices in him that fashioned him from Psalms chapter 149 verse 2. The remnant of Israel will trust on YHWH in covenant truth from Isaiah chapter 10 verse 20, and the call goes out to increase more and more from 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 verse 10. The call goes out to possess the glory of our Lord Joshua Messiah from 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 verse 14. The people are built up as living stones Urim Thummim, chosen of Elohim, into a spiritual house, a consecrated priesthood, from 1 Peter chapter 2 verses 4 and 5. They walk with him in white from Revelation chapter 3 verse 4. The wheat is gathered while the chaff is burned from Luke chapter 3 verse 17. The sacred blessing of YHWH shall bless all the seed of the beloved from Jubilees chapter 31 verse 9, and a wise slave will have part of the covenant inheritance from Proverbs chapter 17 verse 2. The record is preserved, like the bottle in the smoke from Psalms chapter 119 verse 83, the scroll from Jeremiah chapter 51 verses 59 and 60, the command to write from Jubilees chapter 1 verse 12, and the spring named as a memorial in Genesis chapter 16 verse 14. 23 verses carry direct textual hits to the core terms. 46 verses align thematically. The connections reveal tighter typological threads. The waters heaped up and frozen, together with the garment clean after the plague departed, model the instantaneous departure without disturbance. The living baby preserved, the such delivered from the mansion of the dead, and the wheat gathered form a thread of life preserved. The signs before the eyes, the kingdom not with observation, and the covenant faithfulness speak to visible empirical testimony that is sudden. The living stone Urim Thummim, the consecrated priesthood, and the Passover consecration converge on priestly identity at the appointed season. The ransomed not ashamed and the possessing of the glory trace the movement from identity to inheritance. The burden of the word, the scroll written, and the bottle in the smoke pattern the preserved record. The border set that they may not pass over from Psalms chapter 104 verse 9, and the good news let me run from 2 Samuel chapter 18 verse 23, add to the sense of a fixed witness. This draw is classified as a strong anomaly. The non-randomness index stands at 900.3% at 5.84 sigma, representing discovery-level convergence of identity, inheritance, and priesthood. The polarity balance index leans yes with a value of 1.343, indicating directional clarity toward covenantal favor. The guidance detection indicator shows an extreme anomaly, as the combined probability test departs sharply from chance. The convergence confidence index crosses the threshold at 88% with all 6 channels active. These measures confirm the textual patterns are directed. Therefore, the cloth serves as empirical evidence for the event of the body being delivered from the mansion of the dead and preserved living in these specific ways. It is the burden of the word bearing visible testimony as signs and miracles before the eyes. It is the garment remaining positioned and ritually clean after the plague has departed, held without mixing or return like waters heaped up and frozen in upright position. It stands at the appointed season of priestly consecration, first fruits, and Passover. It confirms the inheritance of glory for the identity of the covenant people now built as living stones Urim Thummim in the spiritual house and consecrated priesthood. They walk in white and are gathered as wheat with the record preserved. The mathematics of this guided draw, a strong anomaly at 5.84 sigma with extreme guidance detection and threshold cross-convergence, confirms this direction as affirmative guidance from the text itself. The triple convergence ratifies that identity, the body delivered and preserved, inheritance, glory possessed and ransomed not ashamed, and priesthood, the consecrated witness through the positioned cloth, are the directed signal. This facilitates our encounter with the word on the cloth as the empirical positioned testimony to the instantaneous body cloth event. It is offered in humility, subject to the text and the spirit.